Welcome back, folks, to the
Hello.
Internet Religion Podcast, Season 2. We are back at it. And in the Zoom room today, we have a very special guest. I am beyond thrilled, so excited. We have Liverpool superstar Pixey in the Zoom room today. Welcome.
Hello.
We
Thanks
are
for having me.
Thank you for
Oh,
being
it's
here.
a pleasure.
We are absolutely thrilled. We are huge fans of your music,
Thank you.
we are honored to have you as our first guest for our season 2 of the podcast. It's an honor.
Exciting. I didn't know I was the first guest. That's really cool. Hello
You are.
and welcome.
You really are. So to get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and how'd you get into music?
So it's a kind of weird story about how I got into it. I mean, I was always kind of like a bit musical. I guess my mum is a piano teacher, but I completely like refused her help on any sort of teaching, and it's like you just don't want your mum to teach you how to do music. So I kind of grew up learning the piano on and off. And then when I was about 20, 21, I got a really serious viral illness that nearly killed me. And I decided, as I was recovering from that, to start maybe having a go at writing and recording. And here I am. It kind of turned out well. So it's really cool.
Crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, I was reading a bunch of articles that said you had this like near-death experience. And I was like, that must have been insane. But I mean, I'm glad you're fine, but I'm glad you started creating music after that. It's crazy.
Yeah, without that, I probably would have never had like the drive or the push to really sort of kind of get into it. I was super shy, super nervous, and I never thought it was something I could do. So it's really cool that, I mean, even though I nearly died, it doesn't matter because something good came out of it.
Oh my goodness, that's incredible. That's an incredible story. Well, you're from Liverpool. Tell me about growing up in Liverpool, and has that influenced you in any way in the sense of your music and how you kind of got started?
Yeah, well, it's really funny because when I was when I was a real sort of, when I was born in a place called Lancs, which is this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of in between Liverpool and Manchester. So I was always sent to school in Liverpool, and I kind of like established my identity here, I guess, because I was always here as a kid growing up. But like it was quite nice growing up between the city and the countryside, because like there's nothing to do in the countryside, so I'd have like a really sort of wild imagination, and I was just like, spent a lot of time alone. And then when I started to come into the city a lot for school and stuff, I just really found my place. I think I always kind of associated with the city. I loved walking down the River Mersey. I loved LFC, my football club. Like it was just such a huge part of growing up. So it definitely molded my music taste with the Beatles as well. Being from Liverpool, I guess it's just like a no-brainer. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Amazing.
Liverpool, there's like just cities up north, there's so much character, there's so many people, places, like you said, like the Beatles, people dating back to like Cilla Black. There's just so much musical joy that has came out of Liverpool, so it's easy to have just so much influence.
Yeah, I mean, like as soon as you find out that one of the biggest bands of all time is from where you're from, it kind of like blows your mind a little bit, but it opens up like this kind of like, I don't know, this like possibility that you can do it too. That's what I always love like about being from somewhere where there's been so many fantastic musical artists coming from the same place. I think it's so exciting, and it really kind of helps you establish your sonic identity as well, like being around those artists growing up.
Yeah, definitely. And just I think the UK in general, it's no matter where you look, there is just so much influence, because I think something that really characterizes British music is the pride that we have around our music, and just the joy that music brings to no matter where you are in the UK. So it's always amazing to see all the past acts influencing the new acts and influencing future acts. And I think you can definitely hear influence from so many different artists in your music, but it's still so like, I could listen to any new song and be like, this is Pixey, because you have such a character behind your music, and that's what I love.
That is like what I set out to do. Like when I first started writing, it's hard, like trying to find sort of like USP, I guess, like a unique thing, because you don't know what you're doing. It's like everyone wants to be in the music industry. They want to do, they want to be musicians, which is so exciting. But then trying to then decide how you want to sound, like that was really sort of, well, to be fair, I kind of fell into it because I actually couldn't play any of the instruments I wanted to record. So looping was how I started the sort of sampling thing, because I literally could not play a riff. I was terrible. I mean, I think on Young, which was like my first track, it's just like the same little badly played riff looped over and over again. And then I realized, like, that's quick, that's easy, I can do that. And then I kind of like built the sonic sound that I love today. Like, and then I got into artists that sampled and stuff like Beck and De La Soul. And then I was like, wow, this is a whole genre. Like, I'd love to fit into that, but like, I guess with my own spin on it. But yeah, that makes me so happy that you said that.
Yeah, it's like your sound. I think my favorite way it's been described is your Instagram bio, indie Britney Spears. As soon as I read that, I was like, honestly, I kind of see it.
Yeah, I think I was drunk when I wrote that and I forgot. And then somebody said the next day, and they're like, that's so true. And I was like, what? And then I realized what I thought. Yeah.
I love it. It's true. But I think the most impressive thing is the credits on the back of the record. All tracks written, produced, and performed by Pixey. That is the talent that takes, and to be able to write that is insane. And I think that is where you get so much character from in each song.
Thank you. Oh, that means so much. Yeah, well, like I think because over the lockdown and even pre-lockdown, I never wanted to like rely on anybody. I'm really impatient for a start, so waiting to go into studio, waiting to write is just not something I can do. And then with the musical instruments, like I remember just wanting to learn absolutely everything and be amazing at it instantly. But obviously it takes time. But that's why I like looping stuff as well. Like if I can kind of play a drum beat and loop it, like you'll catch me doing that. But I mean, the first EP was, it was kind of mostly done during that lockdown, and I didn't have, a studio to go into, and I was only sort of working remotely. So it's kind of like a bit of an endeavor, but I really enjoy putting it all together. Like it's such a huge piece of my heart. I think it always will be. So it was really cool to be able to put that and take a lot of credit for it. It's weird though, like even when I do all these bits and then I'm like talking to people who kind of work in a different way, I'm always like, oh, so you don't do that part of it, which is like really interesting to me. But I'm kind of like learning how to sort of get in the studio as well. I mean, it's really sort of nerve-wracking as an artist who's like socially awkward, who sits alone and like does everything on their own, to go into like a big old studio with like a producer who's got like 400,000 knobs to twist and stuff, and you're there like, wow, how do you do that? But it's like, it's really exciting though to, I guess, be able to do all that on your own and not have to have anyone else and doing all that stuff.
Yeah, no, it's an incredible skill. I mean, like you're a one-woman show of like instrumentalist production, like that's incredible. And especially, I mean, it's a great tool to have with the pandemic. You couldn't really go into a studio or anything like that. And, I think you're one of the few or many artists actually that got signed to a label over lockdown. Is that correct? Like, how was that experience for you? Like having that kind of door open up in the middle of a pandemic?
Weird. It was absolutely mental. If the year didn't already feel totally wacky. I remember like I was talking to my manager and he was like, want to hop on this Zoom call with a record label, Chess Club, and I was like, yeah, go on then, and didn't think anything would really come of it, which is crazy. Like it blew my mind, and it still does. I always laugh because before the pandemic I still just sat in my room and wrote, so nothing really changed for me other than that I started getting all these opportunities. It was such a bizarre time. Like everybody else was kind of panicking because everything was shutting down. But like for me, it was the complete opposite. Like everything was starting to work out for me after like, I've been writing for a few years. So it wasn't, just like I'd only just done it for a month or something. Like this was like 2 years worth of writing that I was sitting on. And then for all those like opportunities to start happening whilst like a literal virus is like, crippling the world was kind of mental.
Yeah, it's insane. But again, as you were saying, it's I think for so many people it was crazy, but as we saw with the amount of music that's came out, I think for artists it was the best thing that could have happened because the amount of time you had to write, think about where we wanted things to go. It's opened so many doors for so many people. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's mad. Like, I don't know if I would have had the same opportunities if that hadn't have happened. I guess some record labels were kind of at a standstill because there was no live stuff going on. So we're like, well, maybe we'll like take on other artists. I don't really know. I can't speak for them, but that's kind of how it felt a bit. So I felt very lucky that happened to me, and it kept me really occupied as well. Like, not that I wasn't, there was a couple of months where I was just writing and we were still in the lockdown, but getting that opportunity was like gold. It was amazing. I still can't believe it. I'm still slightly in denial about everything. I still just sit here and just do all like what I usually do, and the difference is now people are listening, which is like, it just makes me so happy. Like, I remember, I think before the lockdown, I would go on my Spotify for artists, there'd be like one person listening and I'd be like, yes, someone's listening today. And now I go on, it's like 50, and I'm like, on like a Tuesday or something at 2 o'clock, and I'm like, what? Like, it just kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, it's the same for us. Like, we're not a huge podcast, but seeing people actually listen from around the world, it's weird.
It's crazy to fathom, innit? I don't think I can fathom it. I think I just look at it and I'm like, okay. But like in reality, it's like, wow.
There's someone I've never met before in some continent I've never been to just start choosing to listen to my voice for 30 minutes. It's insane.
Yeah, it's absolutely mind-blowing. Makes me laugh though, like sometimes when I go on and it's like someone listening in like a tiny part of Russia, and I'm like, imagine like, Just Move playing in like some sort of crazy place I've never been to, like halfway around the world. It's cool though.
It's crazy. And I like before, I mean, Ethan's been a fan for a while and he was one that told me about you, but I would see you on Spotify, like Discover Weeklies and stuff all the time. And I was literally like, who is this? You really just kind of came out of nowhere. But that's what's like amazing about a lot of these artists is just like this pandemic has opened up this whole other world for this group of artists that might not have had their voices be heard before. And it's just an incredible experience. Like as a fan, getting to discover these people, it's like, I think it's a great thing for the music industry. And I don't think we saw it actually happening. Like, I think we all thought that the pandemic was like totally going to ruin live music and the way we function. But I think it just opened up so many more doors for people like you to, have your music out there. And I think it's incredible.
That's such a good point. Like, I think that's so like important, especially, for a lot of bedroom artists as well. Like, it was kind of our time to shine, really, like, because everything else was closed. So, and I think often there's so many talented people who can work and create albums and EPs from literally the tiniest setup with the limited sort of resources, but sometimes it makes you more creative, I guess, as well. I've heard some fantastic stuff come out of the lockdowns and people sort of really getting into that sort of headspace of writing and making something out of the worst situation, I think.
That's amazing. Well, talking about the EP that just released in March, which is fantastic, incredible. Before we got on the recording, we were showing off Ethan's vinyl. He has it on vinyl right there. Beautiful. But so like, was that process any different for you creating this piece of work, or it was just like another Tuesday creating some music for Pixey?
Well, yeah, to be fair, like, the actual, Free to Live in Color, the title track, that was written pre-pandemic, so you can kind of imagine it wasn't that much different when I started writing the rest of the EP. Like, it was all just the same. The only difference was this time I had some additional production, so like ad prod. So I actually met the guy I knew I wanted to work with, James String, before the lockdown happened, which was so lucky because I don't know if he might have been up for it if I hadn't have managed to see him before. And it was right before, we're talking like a couple of weeks. And I was due to go back down to, start work on, to be fair, a whole new set of songs. Those ones were going to be scrapped, all of the EP. So we were going to start something new. And then I guess everything happened and we kind of went back to those tracks and was like, actually, we can do something with these. And it was nice because I think two of them were full production production by me, and then three of them had additional production. But it was exciting putting that together with somebody else, and I learned so much from him as well. Like, I love working with other producers, I guess, because, I'm not actually like, I never went to school. I never went to like a music school to learn it. It was all just self-taught. So it was really exciting then learning, I guess, different kind of production techniques when I started working with James. But it was nice because he didn't change the tracks too much as well. So I still kept my sort of like original like hand on the production, which was really exciting. But putting it together was just like any other track that I would put together pre-pandemic. It was just better because I had no distractions. The pubs were closed and that couldn't go out for a bevy. So I just sat in and banged most of the EP out, and Just Move and Electric Dream were written in the same week. So I finished those off pretty quick. So it's just same old, really. That was a long-winded way of saying same old.
It's insane. I'm glad they weren't scrapped because there's so many gems here, and it's such a fun album that like I love to put it on the record player on a morning. It's such a like a fun, get in the mood album, and I think my favorites are Electric Dream and Free Living Color. Those are just so fun. Yeah.
Thank you. I think
You're
Free
welcome.
Living Color was my favorite to produce because I had so much fun like adding, there's like a car crash effect in it. I don't know if you can hear it in like one of the bits, and I had so much fun putting that in. And I was like getting all like, it was the first time I really pushed my production, I guess, and like to the next level, because before that I was so lazy, so half-assed my production. But like when I realized I was signed, I was like, better do some stuff now. And I love putting that one together. That was really fun. And Electric Dream as well, like when I wrote that on the piano. It was a really sad ballad. It was really slow, and then I was like, I'm gonna put a breakbeat on it and make it dance straight. But yeah, I'm so glad that you like those two tracks. Like,
what's your favorite though? Because there's so many gems to choose from. I don't know how you could choose.
It's funny, like I think, to listen to, I think Free to Live in Colours up there, but Mersey Line was one of my favorites too. Like,
yeah,
I had a lot of fun with that. It was the first one I actually did a drum beat for myself, because I learned drums over the lockdown as well, and literally drove everybody up a wall. I was doing it like 3 hours a day. I was like, shut up. Actually, no, they were really nice about it. But and then I recorded the Mersey Line beat, and that was particularly cool for me to like lay my first sort of like real beat down, like solely mine. So that was really sick. But I'd say those two. I mean, Just Move, I'm kind of sick of it. Like I just hear it constantly. I don't ever see anybody there like, I love Just Move. I'm like, what about the others? But, yeah, California as well. That didn't get like a big release, but that's probably one of my. I'm just listing them all. I don't know why. I don't have a favorite.
A quick back to Mersey Line. In the beginning we were talking about Liverpool influences, and if obviously a lot of people won't know, the Mersey Line is a train line in Liverpool. Obviously, the Merseyside. Sarah would have had no idea.
I don't know what that is. I'm sorry.
Do you want to know what's dead funny? Just quickly about that is like, it's easy to believe. So when I wrote it, I completely forgot about the Mersey Rail. I was thinking about the Mersey River line. So I was like, in my head when I wrote it, I was like, because when I used to write, I used to basically put my headphones on and walk down the River Mersey and write me tunes. Like that's how I'd kind of put my lyrics together. And then as soon as I played it to the first person, they were like, that sounds like an ode to the train line. I was like, oh yeah, it does actually, doesn't it? So whatever you want to interpret it as, it could be the Mersey Rail, it could be the River Line, whatever you want it to be.
Honestly, yeah. I was like, it's either about a nice stroll along the river, or it's just a little a little trip watching out the window.
No, Mersey Rail actually fined me the other day. So it's definitely not about it.
Oh, okay. So
it's like I felt like playing the tune and being like, listen, I wrote a song about the train line, like let me off. But he wasn't having it. He was not having it.
That's incredible.
I mean, I'm not surprised. UK Rail at the moment, the prices they are daring to charge.
Wait, it's criminal. Daylight robbery in my opinion. But that's only just because I got fined. So.
So if anyone asks, we have this week a criminal on the podcast.
I even look a bit like Pixey. The Sims burglar, like the Sims burglar with the hat and the stripy t-shirt.
Oh my gosh. I love Sims. I'm glad you're a Sims fan. It's a great video game.
Yeah, best one. I'm on it most of the time, living like my alternate
That was me. That was me in like the dead of summer last summer during the lockdown. I was like, let's just pretend I'm a sim person because that's how I'm going to live my life. So I love that.
Literally. That was me. And I would always use all the cheats as well. So my houses would be like mansions and I had like 40 pets and everything. I just live my cat lady life.
That's the only way to do it. That's the only way to do it. I love that. Well, kind of talking about virtual life, I feel like Electric Dream is my favorite song. But you said in an article that it's kind of this sense of like being locked in with our technology. And like, since we're a podcast talking about the internet and like technology, like, was that really like the backstory to Electric Dream was about kind of the online culture or like technology?
Yeah, well, it was interesting because I guess as soon as we found out we were going into a lockdown, everyone was like panicking and, you know, navigating that first kind of few weeks was weird because everybody all of a sudden was just online all the time. Like it was just so saturated and dense. And I guess because I wasn't, you know, I was only a really small artist still. Like, I mean, I don't even see myself as like that big now, but like, you know, way smaller than I am now. So it was weird kind of trying to find your voice online when I guess bigger creators can just shout so much louder, they have bigger platforms, you just felt like you were getting lost and everything. And it was kind of like quite overwhelming. And I know a lot of people who struggle with it. And I was just writing a sad song. I think I was feeling sad about something. I don't know. I was feeling a bit melancholy and I came up with that riff on the piano and then I just wanted to, I was feeling anxious and I wanted it to kind of reflect what was going on and you know, and at the end of the day, no matter how much you kind of put into an online presence or an online life, it's not real. Like it's not the same as, you know, the love that you experience and like the interaction with people face to face. And I think that's kind of what the song is trying to say, really. You know, I know everyone was writing about lockdown experiences, but I wanted to make it like an audio like diary of all the thoughts that I had. So it's quite scary, I think, you know, trying to stay sane in that time. And a lot of people struggle with it. And I think they might still struggle with it. Again, now navigating back into that face-to-face experience, I for one know that my social skills have drastically gone downhill. Like, you know, I find myself like talking to people and like I just like, I can't believe that they're like real still. Like I'm like talking to them, I'm like, what is going on? It's mad. But yeah, the song was definitely a reflection of like those feelings around that sort of weird digital shift. It was kind of, yeah, it was weird that time.
I love it.
Speaking about like going back into things, you are performing at festivals. How is that feeling and going?
It's weird because like I've always done like shows and stuff, but because I wasn't signed and you know, like I'd released my first EP, but that was more of like a bit of an experiment, I guess, more than anything else, to see what a self-release looked like. And it's a lot different being signed, I'll tell you that. But I think now, like obviously with that backup and with those, you know, people there to support me, getting these like festival slots is kind of like crazy. Like I've had it before when I first started out. I had a lot of like festival opportunities and I played them and it was great. But coming into it now is a totally different experience. Like there's a huge demand for festival tickets and it's really kind of crazy to think about playing to a full audience in a room, like my songs that nobody had ever heard, which is so weird to think that people have been listening to it all through lockdown and then I'll finally get to play it face to face to people in person. It's going to be absolutely mental. I can't even envision what the first show will feel like, but hopefully my social skills return for that because I can't be asked with them not coming back.
Yeah, and it's like the demand in the UK festivals is insane. Like Leeds Fest sold out for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
And it's going to be crazy. I just can't wait for just that buzz to be back, just everything to back to normal. I'm excited.
Well, I'll tell you, I went to that Blossoms gig, you know, the one in Sefton Park, the pilot gig. And it was absolutely out of this world. I mean, like it's the first gig really, the big, where they did like a Fatboy Slim one, I think on the docks, which I was gutted that I missed because I love Fatboy Slim. But the Blossoms gig was like absolutely overwhelming, like being around so many people again. And it really like, you know, it sort of like quelled my fears about being on stage and performing, because, you know, people in the audience just want to watch some Boss music and they've missed it. And seeing everybody like hugging each other and people on people's shoulders and, you know, hearing the music live was absolutely mind-blowing. It was crazy. Like any other gig, you know, before lockdown, you know, it was kind of like you'd go and you support your friends, but like that feeling of watching that was like, I don't think I'll ever have that again. That was absolutely unbeatable.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping everyone has that first experience returning to watch festivals and gigs like and stuff like that. I feel everybody deserves to feel the feeling that I felt at that gig, because it was unbelievable. It was absolutely unreal.
The feeling of normality is insane. Like last week, coming out with a spoons at midnight, I've missed that so much. Oh, it was great.
That's the thing. It's like, you know, those little things like, you know, someone coming up to you asking you for a lighter or a ciggy, and normally like, piss off. But like this time it was well nice, because I was like, yes, you can. And it was like just being able to talk to people. And I love meeting people, you know, like when I'm out, I love just gabbing to people that I've never met. And you learn so much from like just being around different people, you know. I just think it's fantastic. You can't beat that feeling of like, you know, it's just such a buzz, and I missed it. I really missed it.
Agree. Like I went to Newcastle yesterday, and just first of all, the Geordies are so friendly. So like having all the Geordies talk to me, I was like, it hits here. It hits here.
It's emotional. Like
it
even
is.
Like I hear some like Scouse man like screaming outside my door, like drunk at like, you know, 3 a.m. and I'm like, it's okay. I don't mind it.
So funny. I mean, as fans, we're excited to get back in an audience and like watch performers and stuff. But with this pandemic and everything like we said has been virtual. But have you been able to connect with people that listen to your music and kind of have become Pixey fans online? Like, what has that been like for you?
Do you know, it's really bizarre, because like I was writing for so long, and like I had so much music, and like I said, no one was listening, because you know, I just wasn't, well, I didn't have any sort of platform for people to know about it, I guess. So like when I first released Just Move, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, is anyone going to like it? Like, is this a thing? Like, are people going to enjoy it? And since Just Move dropped, the amount of messages that I've had, and like people from all over the world, like Japan, like loads of different countries in Africa, Australia, the US, like it is mind-blowing. And like they're really loyal fans as well, and they, you know, there's nothing that makes me sort of more humbled when somebody compliments a song, or like, you know, says that I've inspired them in some way, or they buy a record, or they buy a bit of merch. Do you know what I mean? Like every kind of small thing is just, it makes me want to cry, because I just can't fathom it. Like, you know, every listen that I get, every person who sort of stops me in the street and says how much they enjoy my music, I couldn't, if you'd have told me that like 2 years ago, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have been like, nah. So the digital like platform, I guess, because it amplified everything, because everybody was all of a sudden online, I think was the best thing for me. And like I probably wouldn't change it. You know, I don't feel, you know, I hate COVID, but I wouldn't change like the love that I've received from so many different people. Like I honestly, like the amount that it humbles me, I cannot actually put into words. Like it really just makes me like, it gives me the will to live. I'd say. Yeah, it makes me so happy.
I love that. That's adorable. And I think it's amazing. Like and when it comes to being in front of a live audience, those people are going to, you know, be right in front of you. And that's going to be such a magical experience. I mean, I hope I get to see you hopefully when I'm out there in London or UK come October. If you're doing a gig, I will be there, because I would love to see you live. And I know there's tons of people out there that can't wait to get a piece of Pixey live in concert. I'm so excited for what's to come.
Oh, honestly, I can't wait. I just hope that like I can give you the experience that you all really deserve from the track. So I'm already putting stuff together, so I'm really excited.
We are so excited. We are so excited. Well, to like wrap things up, what is next for you besides live performing? That's hopefully going to happen soon. We're thinking Pixey album possibly at some point in time. What's next?
You know, like that is my dream, to have like a full A full album's worth. Do you know what's funny? I'm sitting on probably like at least 2 albums worth of material. So that's I'm not worried about like any tracks anytime, like not being able to write or anything, because I'm writing all the time. So it's just a case of like which ones we want to drop, really. I mean, you know, there's definitely stuff coming. I mean, I'm so excited for what's coming. It's quite bold, I'll tell you that. But I think, yeah, probably another EP, potentially quite soon. Yeah, I'm sitting on a lot of stuff. So I'm really excited.
You heard
I'm
it here
hyped.
first.
I'm so hyped. Oh, I'm excited for music. I'm excited for shows. I'm excited for it all. You are going places, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, thank you so much. That makes me so happy.
We're so thankful that you came on today to chat with us. It's been a great time. I'm glad that there's a lot of fans. That I have a lot of friends and stuff that have literally like recommended, like when we were looking for people for the podcast, they're like, Pixey, have you hit up Pixey? And I was like, we will get Pixey. Don't you worry about it.
I never heard it from him. Like I was told, like, do you want to like come to the podcast? I was like, yeah. And also, I love Baby Queen, so boss. What about it?
I love that. Yeah,
I could tell by the name of the podcast. I was like, of course, that makes sense.
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. It's been great. Thank you, Pixie, again for joining, and thank you, Sarah, for being here. And I'm going to thank myself because it's been great. But thank you, everyone, for listening to episode 2 of the Internet Revolution podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you stay well. I hope you stay safe. I hope you keep wearing a mask outside. And for us, that is goodbye.